The tall glass towers of the ethereal collective reached into the purple sky like crystal fingers. Inside the main research building, Dr. Velthara Mindweaver sat in the assignment chamber, waiting. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of floating data screens that showed information from across the galaxy. Vel quote, Thera had been studying alien species for over 200 cycles. Most of the time, the work was simple and predictable. A new species would be found, observed, and catalogued. Sometimes they would destroy themselves in wars. Sometimes they would join the galactic community. But they always followed the same basic patterns that Velthara had seen many times before. The door opened with a soft whistle. Director Kishan Voidwalker entered, carrying a data tablet that glowed with official markings. The director was old, even by ethereal standards, and had overseen thousands of first contact situations. Dr. Mindweaver, the director said, settling into the chair across from Velthara. I have a new assignment for you. Velthara straightened up. What kind of species, Director? They call themselves humans. They live on a planet they call Earth, in the Outer Rim territories. The director touched the tablet and a hologram appeared showing a blue and green world. The interesting thing is, they are currently at war. War? Velthara leaned forward. War observations were always important for understanding how species handled conflict. Who are they fighting? The Crimson Hegemony. Velthara's eyes widened. The Crimson Hegemony was one of the most powerful military forces in known space. Their technology was advanced, their tactics were perfect, and they had never lost a war against a primitive species. How long have they been fighting? Velthara asked. 3 Earth years. This was surprising. Most primitive species lasted only a few months against the hegemony before surrendering or being completely destroyed. 3 years was almost impossible. What is their current status? Velthara asked. The director touched the tablet again. New images appeared showing battle scenes and military reports. They are losing, of course. The hegemony has superior numbers, better weapons, and more advanced ships. But what? The humans are still fighting. Our intelligence reports say they refuse to surrender. They keep finding new ways to resist, even when logic says they should give up. Velthara studied the images. The human weapons looked primitive compared to hegemony technology. Their ships were smaller and older. Their armies were outnumbered by huge amounts. Yet somehow they were still in the fight. This sounds like standard primitive species behavior, Velthara said. They probably do not understand how badly they are losing. Perhaps, the director said, but I want you to observe them directly. Set up a research station nearby and document their final days. It should not take long. Velthara nodded. This seemed like a routine assignment. When do I leave? Immediately. Dr. Zixion Starwhisper will be your research partner. The ship is ready. 2 hours later, Velthara was aboard the research vessel, Quiet Observer, heading toward human space. Dr. Starwhisper was already reviewing the mission files when Velthara arrived on the bridge. Have you read the full reports? Starwhisper asked without looking up. I read the summary. Primitive species fighting the hegemony. They will be extinct soon. Starwhisper finally looked at Velthara. I am not so sure. Some of these reports are unusual. How so? Starwhisper brought up a battle report on the main screen. Look at this engagement from last month. The humans were defending a mining colony. They were outnumbered 10-1. Standard military logic says they should have evacuated and preserved their forces. What did they do? They stayed and fought. Not only that, they won. They destroyed 3 hegemony cruisers using modified mining equipment and tactics that our military analysts cannot understand. Velthara studied the report. Perhaps the data is wrong. Perhaps, but there are dozens of similar reports. Each time humans do something that should not work, but somehow does work. The ship's navigation system announced they were entering human space. Through the viewing port, Velthara could see the signs of war everywhere. Broken ships floated in space like metal graveyards. Entire asteroid fields had been turned into fortified positions. Emergency beacons sent out distress calls that no one could answer. Activate the cloaking system, Velthara ordered. Take us to the coordinates where the latest battle is happening. The ship became invisible and moved deeper into the war zone. Soon they could see both human and hegemony forces preparing for combat. The human fleet was much smaller, with ships that looked like they had been repaired many times. Some ships were so damaged that Velthara wondered how they could still fly. Look at the commander's vessel, Star Whisper said, pointing to a human ship in the center of their formation dot. The ship was old and scarred from many battles. Its hull was patched with different types of metal. One of its main weapons looked like it had been rebuilt using parts from other ships, but it flew steady and strong, leading the human formation toward the much larger hegemony fleet. Reading human communications, the ship's computer announced. A voice came through the speakers. It was calm and determined, speaking in the human language that their translation systems converted to ethereal speech. All units, this is Commander Dae-ho Kim. We know the odds. We know what we're facing, but we also know what we're fighting for. Our families, our world, our future. Stay close, watch each other's backs, and remember, we don't have to win every battle. We just have to make sure humanity survives this one. Other voices responded from the human ships. They sounded afraid but also determined. Velthara noticed something strange in their tone. They seemed to accept that many of them would die, but they were not bitter or angry about it. Beginning final approach, Commander Kim's voice said. All medical teams prepare for casualties. Hana, make sure the wounded get priority evacuation routes. A female voice responded. Already done, Dae-ho. Medical bays are ready. We'll save everyone we can. Wu Jin, how's your fighter group? A younger voice, barely adult by human standards, answered with excitement. Ready to fly, Commander. My squadron knows the plan. Good. Remember, this isn't about winning today. This is about making tomorrow possible. The human fleet accelerated toward the hegemony forces. Velthara expected to watch a massacre. The hegemony had 3 times as many ships, all of them newer and more powerful. Their weapons could destroy human vessels with single shots. Their shields could deflect most human attacks. But as the battle began, something unexpected happened. The humans did not fight like other species Velthara had observed. They did not try to match the hegemony's superior firepower. Instead, they used tactics that seemed impossible. Human fighters flew in patterns that confused the hegemony's targeting systems. When hegemony ships moved to attack, they found human vessels in positions that should have been impossible to reach so quickly. Human weapons hit targets they should not have been able to damage. How are they doing this? Velthara asked. Star Whisper was studying the sensor readings with disbelief. They are using their ship's weaknesses as advantages. Look, that damaged human cruiser is venting atmosphere. The hegemony ships are treating it as disabled, but the humans are using the gas cloud to hide other ships. The battle continued for hours. The humans lost many ships, but they also destroyed several hegemony vessels. More importantly, they achieved their apparent goal. They evacuated 3 human colonies before the hegemony could capture them. As the human fleet retreated, Velthara heard Commander Kim's voice again. All units, fall back to Rally Point 7. Medical teams report casualties. Everyone else start planning for next time. Next time, Star Whisper said. They are already planning their next battle. Velthara was quiet for a long moment, watching the human ships disappear into hyperspace. According to every military analysis model the ethereal collective had developed, the humans should have been completely destroyed. Instead, they had saved their people and were already preparing to fight again. Set course for their rally point, Velthara said, but maintain safe distance. I think we need to observe these humans more carefully. As the quiet observer followed the human fleet, Velthara began to wonder if this assignment would be as simple as the director had predicted. The humans were losing the war, that was clear. But they were losing it in ways that no other species had ever attempted. And somehow in losing they were still fighting. 3 days after the first battle, Velthara watched the humans prepare for another fight. The research ship Quiet Observer stayed hidden while monitoring human communications and movements. What Velthara saw confused everything they thought. They knew about warfare. The human rally point was not a military base. It was an asteroid field that the humans had turned into a temporary repair station. Ships floated between the rocks, being fixed by teams of workers in spacesuits. The damaged cruiser from the previous battle was being rebuilt using parts from destroyed hegemony vessels. They are using enemy technology, Star Whisper observed, watching the repair work through long-range sensors. Most species do that, Velthara replied. It is logical to use superior equipment when available. Yes, but look how they are using it. Velthara focused on the repair teams. The humans were not simply replacing their broken weapons with hegemony weapons. Instead, they were combining human and hegemony technology in ways that should not work. A human engineer was installing a hegemony power core into a human fighter, but he was also adding human-made modifications that changed how the power flowed. The EGA engineering principles are incompatible, Velthara said. Those modifications should cause the power core to explode. Yet they are working, Star Whisper pointed out. The human engineer finished his work and tested the fighter. Instead of exploding, the ship produced more power than either the human or hegemony design should have been capable of. The engineer, a young man the humans called Min Ho Choi, smiled and moved on to the next ship. How is this possible? Velthara wondered. A new voice came through the communication system. It was Commander Kim, speaking to someone called Hana. The hegemony is planning another attack on the colony worlds, Kim was saying. Intelligence reports show they will hit the civilian evacuation ships first. That violates the war conventions, Hana replied. Her voice sounded angry. The hegemony does not care about conventions. They want to break our spirit by making us watch our families die. What do? We stop them. How? We lost 8 ships in the last battle. They have 50 ships heading for the evacuation fleet. There was a pause. Then Kim spoke again, his voice calm and determined. We use what they do not expect, which is, we make them think like humans instead of like machines. Velthara did not understand what this meant, but over the next several hours they watched the humans prepare something unprecedented. Instead of gathering their remaining military ships for a direct attack, the humans were modifying civilian vessels. Cargo ships were being fitted with weapons. Passenger transports were having their hulls reinforced. Even small personal craft were being armed. This is insane, Star Whisper said. Civilian ships cannot fight military vessels. Perhaps they are planning to use them as distractions, Velthara suggested. But as the human plan became clear, Velthara realized it was much more complex than a simple distraction. The humans were not planning to fight the hegemony fleet directly. Instead, they were going to make the hegemony fight itself. The key was something the humans called psychological warfare. Velthara had read about this concept in human military files but had dismissed it as primitive thinking. Now they watched as the humans put it into practice. The human fleet, led by Commander Kim's patched-together cruiser, approached the hegemony force. But instead of attacking immediately, they began broadcasting on all communication frequencies. The broadcasts were not military commands or threats. They were personal messages. Attention hegemony forces, Kim's voice said. We know you are just following orders. We know you probably have families too. We do not want to kill you, but we will protect our people. Please consider what you are really fighting for. The hegemony fleet did not respond to these messages. Their artificial intelligence systems were programmed to ignore psychological tactics. But the humans had studied hegemony technology during their 3 years of war. They knew something about the AI systems that the hegemony commanders did not. Young pilot Wu Jin Lee flew his modified fighter directly at the hegemony flagship. His ship was broadcasting a signal that looked like a surrender request. When the hegemony ship moved to capture him, Wu Jin activated a device that Minho had built from captured hegemony equipment. The device sent a virus into the hegemony ship's computer system. But it was not a normal virus. It was designed to make the AI think that other hegemony ships were actually human ships in disguise. Within minutes, The hegemony fleet began attacking itself. Their own AI systems, convinced that they were surrounded by enemies, turned their weapons on their allies. The confusion spread from ship to ship as each AI tried to identify which vessels were real and which were fake. "Impossible," Star Whisper whispered. "How did they know this would work?" Velthara was studying the sensor readings with growing amazement. They turned the hegemony's greatest strength into a weakness. The AI systems are too perfect. They cannot handle uncertainty the way organic minds can. While the hegemony fleet destroyed itself, the human civilian ships moved in to rescue the evacuation transports. But even this was not simple. Many of the evacuation ships were damaged and could not move quickly. The humans could have saved themselves and left the damaged ships behind. Instead, they did something that violated every principle of military logic. Hannah Park, the medical officer, took her hospital ship directly into the combat zone. Her ship had no weapons and minimal armor. It should have been destroyed immediately. Instead, she began broadcasting on emergency medical frequencies, announcing that she was providing aid to wounded from both sides. "This is Medical Officer Park," her voice came through the communication system. "We are treating injured personnel regardless of species or allegiance. Any ship requiring medical assistance, please signal on Emergency Channel 7. Several damaged hegemony vessels, their crews injured and their AI systems still confused, actually requested help. Hana's medical teams went aboard enemy ships to treat wounded hegemony soldiers. "She is helping the enemy," Star Whisper said in disbelief. "Yes," Velthara replied, watching the impossible scene. "And it is working." The hegemony soldiers who received medical treatment from the humans began questioning their orders. Some of them switched sides entirely. Others simply stopped fighting, unwilling to attack the people who had saved their lives. The psychological effect spread through the remaining hegemony forces. Within 6 hours, what should have been a massacre of human evacuation ships had turned into a complete hegemony defeat. The humans had not only saved their civilians, they had captured several enemy vessels and convinced dozens of hegemony soldiers to defect. Commander Kim's voice came through the communication system one final time as the human fleet prepared to leave. "All units, mission accomplished. Civilian evacuation complete. Casualty reporting down, we lost 3 ships, 47 personnel. Enemy casualties, estimated 2,000. Enemy defectors requesting asylum, 63. Medical supplies used treating. Enemy wounded, 30% of our reserves." "Was it worth it?" someone asked. "Every life we saved was worth it," Kim replied. "Every enemy soldier who stops fighting is one less person we have to kill tomorrow." As the human fleet departed, Velthara noticed something in the final casualty reports. The humans listed their own dead with full names and personal information. But they also listed the hegemony soldiers who had died, giving them the same respect and detail. "They mourn their enemies," Velthara said quietly. "What kind of species mourns the soldiers trying to kill them?" Star Whisper asked. Thera did not have an answer. In all their years of studying different species, they had never seen anything like human warfare. The humans fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and emotional logic that should not have been possible. But what disturbed Velthara most was not how the humans fought. It was how they treated the cost of fighting. They accepted casualties as necessary, but they never accepted them as meaningless. Every death, even enemy deaths, seemed to matter to them. "Set course to follow their fleet," Velthara ordered. "I need to see more." "Are you sure? The director expects a simple observation report." "This is not simple," Velthara replied, watching the human ships disappear into hyperspace. "These humans are doing something that should not be possible. They are losing a war and winning it at the same time." As the quiet observer followed the human fleet deeper into the war zone, Velthara began to understand that this assignment would not be routine. The humans were not just another primitive species facing extinction. They were something new, something that the ethereal collective's databases had no classification for. And Velthara was beginning to suspect that the galaxy was not ready for what humans represented. 2 months had passed since Velthara began observing the humans. The research ship Quiet Observer had followed human forces through 12 major battles and countless smaller engagements. With each encounter, Velthara's understanding of warfare itself was being rewritten. The latest battle reports made no logical sense. The hegemony had deployed new plasma weapons that could destroy human ships with a single shot. Any rational species would have retreated, regrouped, and spent months developing countermeasures. The humans had figured out how to neutralize the plasma weapons in 4 days. Show me the technical analysis again, Velthara requested. Star Whisper brought up the sensor recordings from the most recent engagement. The humans discovered that the plasma weapons cannot penetrate certain types of electromagnetic fields. But here's the interesting part. They did not develop new technology to create these fields. What did they do? They used their ship's communication arrays. Engineer Minho Choi figured out how to modify standard communication equipment to generate the exact frequency needed to disrupt the plasma beams. Velthara studied the data. This should have taken months of research and testing. Minho tested it by flying his fighter directly at a hegemony cruiser. If his calculations had been wrong, he would have been vaporized instantly. And if they had been correct, he would have exactly the information needed to save the rest of the human fleet, which is exactly what happened. Velthara was beginning to understand something disturbing about human problem-solving. They did not separate theoretical research from practical application. When they needed a solution, they tested it immediately under real conditions, even when failure meant death. Dr. Mindweaver, the ship's communication system, announced, "We are receiving a priority message from the Ethereal Collective." Director Voidwalker's image appeared on the main screen. "Dr. Mindweaver, your latest reports are causing concern among the Research Council. You claim that humans are developing countermeasures faster than any known species." "That is correct, Director. They appear to have accelerated their technological development by at least 50% since the war began. This is impossible. Species cannot simply increase their development rate during times of stress. Perhaps most species cannot, but humans seem to be different." The director's expression showed doubt. "I am sending additional observation equipment. I want detailed scans of human technology and decision-making processes. If they have discovered some method of rapid adaptation, we need to understand it." After the director's image disappeared, Velthara returned to monitoring human communications. Commander Kim was briefing his officers about their next mission, rescuing human prisoners from a hegemony detention facility. "Intelligence reports show the facility is defended by automated systems," Kim was explaining. "No organic guards, just AI-controlled weapons and barriers." "What is our tactical advantage?" asked Hana Park. "The AI systems are programmed to expect standard assault tactics. They will be ready for direct attacks, siege weapons, and infiltration attempts." "So what do?" Minho asked. "We walk in the front door and ask them to let our people go." There was silence in the command room. Finally, young pilot Wu Jin spoke up. "Commander, that sounds like suicide." Kim smiled. "It would be suicide for any other species. But we are human. We do not think like AI systems expect us to think." Over the next several hours, Velthara watched the humans prepare for their most impossible mission yet. Instead of weapons and assault equipment, they loaded their ships with diplomatic supplies, medical equipment, and communication gear. "They are really going to try to negotiate with an automated prison," Star Whisper said in disbelief. "Worse than that," Velthara replied. "They are going to try to convince the AI that it should want to release the prisoners." The human rescue fleet approached the hegemony detention facility openly, broadcasting diplomatic signals. The facility's AI systems immediately locked weapons onto the approaching ships, demanding identification and surrender. Commander Kim's voice came through the communication system, speaking directly to the AI. "This is Commander Dae-Ho Kim of the Human Defense Forces. We request permission to negotiate for the release of human prisoners currently in your custody." The AI responded with standard protocol threats. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed. No negotiations are permitted with enemy forces." "We understand your position," Kim replied calmly. "But we would like to present information that may change your operational parameters." Explain. "You are programmed to maintain security and prevent prisoner escapes. We can offer you a solution that meets these objectives while also resolving a significant resource allocation problem." Velthara was fascinated. Kim was speaking to the AI as if it were a person with concerns and goals, rather than a simple program following instructions. "Continue," the AI said. "Your facility is currently using significant resources to maintain human prisoners. Food, medical care, security monitoring, all of this requires energy and equipment that could be used for other purposes." "Correct. However, prisoner maintenance is within acceptable resource parameters. But what if we could offer you something more valuable than keeping the prisoners?" "Define more valuable." Kim paused for effect. "Information about human tactical innovations that could help you improve your security systems." This was when Velthara realized what the humans were really doing. They were not just negotiating with the AI, they were teaching it to think like a human. Over the next 2 hours, Kim and his team engaged the AI in a complex discussion about efficiency, resource allocation, and strategic priorities. They presented arguments that the AI's logical systems could not easily reject, while simultaneously sharing information that would help the hegemony improve their defenses. "They are giving military secrets to the enemy," Star Whisper observed. "Are they?" Velthara asked. "Look more carefully at the information they are sharing." Star Whisper analyzed the data being transmitted. "These tactical reports, they describe human strategies that the hegemony has already encountered. Nothing new." "Exactly. They are giving the AI information it already has, but presenting it in a way that makes the AI feel like it is gaining valuable intelligence." The negotiation continued for hours. The AI asked detailed questions about human psychology, tactical thinking, and strategic planning. Kim and his team answered honestly, but carefully, always framing their responses in terms of mutual benefit and logical efficiency. Finally, the AI reached a conclusion. "Proposal accepted. Exchange of human prisoners for tactical intelligence. Provides optimal resource allocation. Prisoners will be released to designated transport vessels." As the human prisoners were transferred to rescue ships, Velthara heard one of them talking to Commander Kim. "How did you know that would work?" the former prisoner asked. "I did not know," Kim replied. "But I knew that AI systems are designed to make logical decisions. I just had to help the AI see that releasing you was more logical than keeping you. What if you had been wrong?" "Then we would have found another way. We always find another way." This statement bothered Velthara more than anything else they had observed. Kim spoke with complete confidence that humans could overcome any obstacle, solve any problem, survive any threat. It was not arrogance. It was a fundamental assumption about what humans were capable of. Later, as the rescue fleet returned to human space, Velthara reviewed the mission reports. The humans had not only rescued their prisoners without firing a shot, they had also gathered detailed intelligence about hegemony AI systems. They had turned a rescue mission into a reconnaissance operation. "How many other species could have done this?" Star Whisper asked. "None," Velthara replied. "Most species think in terms of fixed categories: enemy or ally, war or peace, victory or defeat. Humans seem to think in terms of possibilities and opportunities." "Is that why they are surviving this war?" "I think it is why they are doing more than surviving. They are changing the war itself." That night, Velthara listened to human communications from across their fleet. The rescued prisoners were being debriefed, sharing information about hegemony prison procedures and security systems. Engineer Minho was already designing modifications to human ships based on observations of hegemony technology. Medical officer Hana was treating both human and defected hegemony personnel with equal care. But it was a conversation between Commander Kim and pilot Wu Jin that disturbed Velthara most. "Commander," Wu Jin said, "do you think we can actually win this war?" "Win?" Kim replied. "Wu Jin, we already won." "How do you figure that?" "When this war started, the hegemony expected to destroy humanity in a few months. 3 years later, we are still fighting, still growing stronger, still finding new ways to surprise them. Every day we survive is a victory. But they still have more ships, better weapons, larger armies. Yes. And if this was a war about ships and weapons, they would have won already. But this is a war about who gives up first. And humans do not give up. Velthara shut off the communication system and stared out at the stars. In their centuries of studying different species, they had never encountered anything like human determination. Other species fought until the cost became too high, then made rational decisions to surrender or retreat. Humans seem to have removed surrender as an option from their thinking entirely. Dr. Starwhisper, Velthara said. The human field hospital was unlike anything Velthara had seen before. Set up in the ruins of what had once been a beautiful city, the medical facility treated both human and hegemony wounded side by side. Medical Officer Hannah Park moved between the beds, checking on patients who had been trying to kill each other just hours earlier. Thara watched from the cloaked research ship as Hannah worked. She had been awake for 72 hours straight, treating casualties from the latest battle. Her hands shook from exhaustion, but she continued working with careful precision. Dr. Park, a young nurse called out. The hegemony soldier in bed 12 is asking for you. Hannah walked over to where a wounded alien warrior lay connected to human medical equipment. The hegemony soldier's natural blue skin had turned pale from blood loss, but his eyes were alert. Doctor, the soldier said in halting human language, why do you help me? I was trying to kill your people. Hannah sat down beside the bed. Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. That is all that matters right now. But your people are dying because of soldiers like me. Yes, Hannah said simply, and that makes me sad. But you are not fighting now. Right now, you are just someone who needs help. Velthara had studied hundreds of species, but had never seen anything like this interaction. Most species treated wounded enemies as threats to be contained or resources to be exploited. The humans treated them as patients who happened to be enemies, Dr. Mindweaver, Starwhisper said quietly. I am reading unusual stress indicators from the human personnel. Velthara checked the sensor data. Every human in the medical facility showed signs of severe psychological strain. They were operating at the edge of mental and physical collapse, yet they continued working. How are they still functioning? Velthara wondered. The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Kim had arrived at the medical facility not for treatment, but to visit his wounded soldiers. Velthara watched him move from bed to bed, speaking quietly with each patient. When Kim reached a bed where a young pilot lay with severe burns, the conversation was soft but clear enough for the sensors to detect. How are you feeling, Woo-Jin? Kim asked. The pilot, barely recognizable under his bandages, managed a weak smile. Like I flew my fighter into a hegemony battleship, sir. You did fly your fighter into a hegemony battleship. You saved an entire civilian transport. Was it worth it, Commander? All this pain, all these people dying, is it worth it? Kim was, quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that Velthara had never heard before. I do not know, Woo-Jin. I hope so. I have to hope so. Because if it is not worth it, then we are monsters for asking you to do it. You did not ask me, sir. I volunteered. That makes it worse, not better, because it means the choice is yours and you have to live with whatever happens. Velthara realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Commander Kim was not hiding the cost of war from his soldiers. He was sharing the burden of command, the weight of decisions that sent people to die for causes they could only hope were worth the sacrifice. Later that night, Velthara observed Kim sitting alone outside the medical facility. The commander was staring at a collection of small metal tags, identification markers from soldiers who had died under his command. There were dozens of them. Hannah found him there an hour later. She sat down beside him without speaking. How many? Today? Kim asked. 17 humans. 4 hegemony soldiers. The hegemony soldiers. Could we have saved them? I tried. Sometimes trying is not enough. Kim picked up one of the metal tags. Corporal Song Yi-jun, 19 years old, died when his transport was shot down during the evacuation of Colony 7. I remember him. He kept asking if the civilians got out safely. They did. All 400 of them. He would be happy about that. Would he? Or would he be angry that we sent him to die for people he never met? Hana was quiet for a moment. He would be happy, you know that. He volunteered for the evacuation mission. They all volunteer. That is what I do not understand about us. We keep volunteering to die for each other. Is that bad? I do not know. Sometimes I think it makes us noble. Sometimes I think it makes us insane. Velthara was disturbed by this conversation. Most military species they had studied treated casualties as acceptable losses, necessary costs of achieving objectives. The humans seemed to treat every death as a personal failure, even when the mission succeeded. Why do they do this to themselves? Star Whisper asked. I think, Velthara said slowly. They do it because they have to live with themselves afterward. The next morning brought news of another hegemony attack. A human research station was under assault, and the scientists there had made a discovery that could change the course of the war. Commander Kim was ordered to evacuate the station before the research fell into enemy hands. The evacuation should have been simple. The research station had only 40 personnel, and Kim's fleet had enough ships to carry them all. But when the human forces arrived, they found the station's defenses had been destroyed and hegemony ground forces were already inside. Commander, the station director's voice came through the communication system. We cannot reach the evacuation points. Hegemony soldiers control all the corridors. Can you reach a defensible position? Kim asked. We are barricaded in the main laboratory, but they have heavy weapons. We can hold them for maybe an hour. Kim studied the tactical display. The research station was surrounded by hegemony ships. Any attempt to land rescue troops would result in heavy casualties. The logical decision was to destroy the station from orbit, denying the research to the enemy while minimizing human losses. But that would mean abandoning 40 people who were counting on rescue. All units, Kim announced. Prepare for ground assault. We are going in. Sir, his tactical officer protested. The casualties will be severe. We could lose half our forces trying to save 40 people. Yes, Kim said simply. We could. Is 40 lives worth risking hundreds? Kim turned to face his officers. If we start deciding which humans are worth saving and which are not, then we have already lost this war. We save everyone we can, or we are not worth saving ourselves. The assault on the research station was brutal. Human forces fought their way through heavily defended corridors, taking heavy casualties to reach the trapped scientists. Pilot Wu Jin, still recovering from his injuries, volunteered to fly a supply run through enemy fire. Thara watched the battle with growing horror. The humans were throwing away tactical advantages, taking enormous risks, sacrificing strategic resources, all to save a relatively small number of people who might have valuable research. But as the battle continued, something unexpected happened. The hegemony forces began making mistakes. Their commanders, trained to fight against logical opponents, could not understand why the humans were fighting so hard for so little strategic value. The confusion spread through their ranks. When human forces finally reached the trapped scientists, they found something that made the rescue even more complex. The research team included several hegemony defectors who had been working on developing better medical treatments for both species. We cannot leave them, Dr. Sorayun, the station director announced. They abandoned their own people to help us. We owe them protection. This created a new problem. The hegemony defectors would be executed if captured, but evacuating them would require additional time and resources that the rescue force did not have. Commander Kim made another impossible decision. We take everyone. No one gets left behind. The evacuation took 3 hours longer than planned. During that time, human ships were destroyed, soldiers were killed, and equipment was lost. By any rational calculation, the mission was a tactical disaster. But when the survivors finally reached safety, Velthara witnessed something that challenged every assumption about military effectiveness. The rescued scientists immediately began working on projects that could help the war effort. The hegemony defectors provided intelligence that would save thousands of lives in future battles. More importantly, news of the rescue spread throughout human space. Morale improved dramatically as people realized their military would never abandon them no matter the cost. They are willing to lose battles to win something more important than battles, Velthara observed. What could be more important than winning battles? Star Whisper asked. Remaining worthy of the victory. That night, Velthara watched Hana Park working in the medical bay, treating the wounded from the rescue mission. She moved among the beds, with the same careful attention she gave to every patient, but Velthara could see the exhaustion and strain wearing her down. When she finally stopped working, Hana sat in a quiet corner and cried. Not from physical pain, but from the accumulated weight of watching so many people suffer for causes they could only hope were worth the price. But the next morning, she was back at work, treating the wounded with the same dedication and care she had shown the day before. How long can they sustain this? Velthara wondered. As long as they have to, Star Whisper replied, reading from the medical scanners. Their stress levels should have caused psychological collapse weeks ago, but they keep finding ways to continue. Velthara was beginning to understand that human warfare. The emergency transmission from the Ethereal Collective arrived, while Velthara was monitoring preparations for what intelligence reports suggested would be the final battle of the war. Director Voidwalker's image appeared on the communication screen, his expression more serious than Velthara had ever seen. Dr. Mindweaver, you are ordered to extract immediately. Cease all observation activities and return to collective space. Director, the situation here is reaching a critical point. The humans are preparing for a decisive engagement that could determine the outcome of the entire war. That is exactly why you must leave. The Research Council has reviewed your reports, and we have concluded that continued observation of human warfare poses unacceptable risks to collective security. Velthara was confused. What kind of risks? Your reports describe tactical innovations and psychological approaches to warfare that are unprecedented in galactic history. If humans survive this conflict, they will represent a destabilizing force in galactic politics. Are you suggesting we should hope they lose? I am suggesting that we should not be present to witness human capabilities that we may someday need to counter. Extract immediately. That is a direct order. The communication ended, leaving Velthara staring at the blank screen. Star Whisper looked up from the sensor readings with concern. Are you going to follow the extraction order? Star Whisper asked. Thera looked out at the human fleet, now gathering near Earth's orbital defense platforms for what everyone knew would be the war's final battle. Commander Kim's scarred cruiser held position at the center of the formation, surrounded by ships that had been rebuilt so many times they barely resembled their original designs. No, Velthara said quietly. I cannot leave now. Dr. Mindweaver, those were direct orders from the Research Council. I know, but these humans have become important to me. I need to see how this ends. Star Whisper was silent for a moment. You realize that refusing extraction orders will result in exile from the collective? Yes. And you are willing to accept that consequence? Velthara turned away from the viewing port. The humans have taught me something about acceptable consequences. Sometimes the cost of doing the right thing is less important than the cost of not doing it. As if summoned by Velthara's decision, the hegemony fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was massive. Over 300 ships of various sizes, all equipped with the most advanced weapons and defenses the hegemony could deploy. Intelligence reports suggested this was every available hegemony vessel in this sector of space. The human fleet numbered 47 ships. The tactical analysis is simple, Star Whisper said, reading from the sensor displays. The humans cannot win this battle using conventional tactics. When have the humans ever used conventional tactics? Velthara replied. Over the next several hours, Velthara watched the humans prepare for their final stand. But what they observed was unlike any military preparation they had seen before. Instead of focusing solely on weapons and tactics, the humans were recording messages. Commander Kim stood in his ship's communication center, speaking into a recording device. "My name is Dae-ho Kim. If you are watching this, it means I did not survive the battle for Earth. I want you to know that we fought not because we enjoyed war, but because we believed peace was worth fighting for. We died not because we wanted to die, but because we wanted humanity to live." Similar recordings were being made throughout the human fleet. Soldiers, engineers, medical personnel, and support staff were all creating final messages for families they might never see again. "They are preparing to die," Star Whisper observed. "No," Velthara corrected. "They are preparing to be remembered." The battle began at dawn, Earth time. The hegemony fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charged and their shields at maximum strength. They expected the humans to meet them in conventional ship-to-ship combat, where superior numbers and technology would guarantee victory. Instead, the humans did something that no military computer could have predicted. They surrendered. "All hegemony forces," Commander Kim's voice broadcast on all frequencies. "This is the human defense fleet. We surrender unconditionally." The hegemony fleet stopped advancing, confused by this unexpected development. Their commanders had been prepared for a desperate last stand, not a peaceful surrender. "State your terms of surrender," the hegemony fleet commander responded. "We have only one term," Kim replied. "We request that you allow our civilian population to evacuate Earth before you take control of the planet." "Why would you request this? Defeated populations become subjects of the hegemony. They will be protected under military law." "Because," Kim said, his voice carrying across space to both the hegemony fleet and every human ship in the system, "we have learned something about your people during this war. You are not monsters. You are soldiers following orders, trying to bring order to a chaotic galaxy. We respect that. We also know," Kim continued, "that ruling humans will be very difficult for you. We do not follow orders well. We ask too many questions. We make emotional decisions that your logical systems cannot predict. You will be happier if we are somewhere else." Velthara realized what Kim was really doing. He was not surrendering. He was negotiating. But he was negotiating in a way that made the hegemony feel like they were winning while actually giving them something they had not known they wanted. The hegemony commander considered this unexpected offer. "You are suggesting voluntary exile rather than occupation. We are suggesting that you allow us to solve a problem for both of our peoples. You get Earth and its resources without the complications of governing humans. We get to continue being human somewhere else. This is not standard surrender protocol." "No," Kim agreed. "But this has not been a standard war." For 3 hours, Kim negotiated with the hegemony commander while the two fleets faced each other across space. But Velthara noticed something that the hegemony forces had not detected. Human civilian ships were indeed evacuating Earth, but they were not fleeing the system. They were positioning themselves in carefully planned formations throughout the solar system. "What are they really doing?" Star Whisper asked. Vel, Thara, studied the evacuation patterns with growing understanding. "They are not evacuating. They are deploying." The truth became clear when young pilot Wu Jin, now commanding a squadron of fighters, sent a coded message to all human vessels. "All units. Phase 2 is now active. Remember, we are not trying to win a battle. We are trying to save a species." Suddenly, every human civilian ship in the system revealed hidden weapons and began moving toward the hegemony fleet. But they were not attacking the military vessels. Instead, they were targeting the hegemony supply ships and support vessels. At the same time, engineer Minho activated devices that had been secretly placed throughout the solar system during the past months of fighting. These devices created massive electromagnetic disturbances that interfered with hegemony communications and navigation systems. The hegemony fleet found itself surrounded by hundreds of small, fast human vessels that attacked their logistics while staying out of range of heavy weapons. Their own ships could not coordinate properly due to the electromagnetic interference. But the most devastating part of the human strategy was psychological. Medical Officer Hannah Park was broadcasting on emergency frequencies, offering medical assistance to any hegemony personnel who were injured in the confusion. "This is Medical Officer Park." Her voice reached every ship in the system. "We are prepared to provide medical assistance to any vessel requiring aid. Human or hegemony, it does not matter. We will help anyone who needs help." The effect on hegemony morale was immediate and severe. They had come to destroy humanity, but the humans were offering to save their lives. Many hegemony soldiers began questioning why they were fighting people who showed such concern for their welfare. Commander Kim's voice came through the communication system one final time. "Hegemony Fleet Commander, we withdraw our surrender, not because we want to fight you, but because we have realized something important. This war is not about whether humans or the hegemony control this part of space. It is about whether there is room in the galaxy for people who think differently. We think differently than you do. We make decisions based on emotions as well as logic. We value individual lives more than strategic objectives. We refuse to accept that anyone is expendable. These differences make us difficult to understand, but they also make us useful. The galaxy needs people who think like us, just as it needs people who think like you. So we propose a different kind of peace. Not surrender by either side, but cooperation between two very different ways of being intelligent." The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Instead of trying to destroy each other, both sides fought to prove their value as allies. Humans demonstrated their ability to solve impossible problems through creative thinking and emotional intelligence. The hegemony showed their capacity for logical analysis and systematic organization. When the fighting finally ended 12 hours later, both fleets were damaged, but intact. More importantly, they had learned something about each other that would change the galaxy forever. As Velthara watched human and hegemony medical teams working together to treat wounded from both sides, they realized that they had witnessed something unprecedented. The humans had not won the war. The 1 year after the end of the human hegemony war, Velthara sat alone in a small research station at the edge of known space. The station was primitive compared to ethereal collective facilities, but it was all that exile allowed. The silence was broken only by the gentle hum of life support systems and the occasional burst of static from communication equipment. Star Whisper had chosen to return to collective space, accepting punishment rather than permanent exile. Velthara did not blame their former partner. Most beings were not prepared for the weight of understanding what humans represented in the galactic community. The communication system activated, displaying an incoming message from Earth. Velthara had been receiving these messages for months but had not responded to any of them. Today felt different. The message was from Medical Officer Hannah Park, now serving as Director of Reconstruction for the Human Worlds. "Dr. Mindweaver," Hannah's recorded voice began. "I know you are out there somewhere, and I know you have been receiving our messages. We wanted to thank you for your invisible presence during our darkest hours." Velthara leaned forward, surprised by the opening words. "We knew you were watching us. Our sensor technology is not as primitive as you probably assumed. We detected your ship during the second week of your observation period." The revelation was shocking. The humans had known about the observation all along. "We chose not to interfere with your mission because we understood what you were trying to do. You were documenting our final days as a species. We respected that, even though we had no intention of becoming extinct." Hannah paused in her message, and the image shifted to show scenes of reconstruction throughout human space. Cities were being rebuilt, but not exactly as they had been before. The new construction incorporated both human and hegemony design principles, creating architecture that neither species could have imagined alone. "We want you to know what happened after the war ended," Hannah continued. "The peace negotiations took 6 months. Not because we disagreed about major issues, but because humans and hegemony think so differently that we needed time to understand each other. New images showed human and hegemony representatives working together on various projects. Former enemies were now designing ships, developing medical treatments, and exploring distant worlds as partners. Commander Kim leads the Joint Exploration Fleet now. His first officer is Velkoth Spearpoint, the hegemony commander who almost destroyed Earth. They argue constantly about tactics and priorities, but they also solve problems that neither species could handle alone. The image changed to show Min-Ho Choi working in a laboratory with hegemony engineers. They were building devices that combined human creativity with hegemony precision, creating technology that was more advanced than either species had achieved, independently. Engineer Choi says that working with hegemony logic systems has made him a better problem solver. The hegemony engineers say that human intuition has shown them solutions they never would have considered. Velthara watched these scenes with growing amazement. The post-war galaxy was not what anyone had expected. Instead of victory for one side or the other, the conflict had created something entirely new. Young pilot Wu Jin now commands a squadron of mixed human and hegemony fighters. His pilots say they are more effective together than they ever were apart. Different ways of thinking about the same problems create better solutions. But it was the next part of Hana's message that truly disturbed Velthara. Dr. Mindweaver, we need to tell you something important. We know that your people ordered you to leave before the final battle. We also know that you chose to stay and witness what happened. The image changed to show Hana speaking directly to the camera, her expression serious but kind. We know that your decision to stay probably cost you your position in your own society. We are sorry about that. We understand what it means to be exiled for doing what you believe is right. But we also want you to know that your presence mattered to us. Knowing that someone was watching, someone was documenting our struggle gave us hope that our story would be remembered even if we lost. You were not just an observer, Dr. Mindweaver. You were a witness. And sometimes, having a witness is the most important thing of all. The message continued with an offer that Velthara had not expected. We would like to invite you to Earth. Not as an observer, but as a friend. We have many questions about the galaxy, and we suspect you have questions about us. Perhaps we can learn from each other. We know you are different from us. We know you think in ways that we do not fully understand, but we have learned that different ways of thinking can be valuable, even when they are difficult to understand. The choice is yours, Dr. Mindweaver. You can remain in exile, continuing to study us from a distance, or you can join us in trying to figure out what comes next. The message ended with coordinates for a meeting point and a simple statement. We will wait for your answer for as long as it takes. Velthara sat in silence for hours, considering the implications of Hana's offer. Accepting would mean abandoning any hope of returning to the ethereal collective. It would mean embracing a life among species that thought in ways the collective considered dangerous and unpredictable. But refusing would mean spending the rest of their existence alone, carrying the weight of knowledge that no one else could. Understand. Velquote. Thara activated the communication system and began recording a response. Medical Officer Park, they began, then stopped. The formal address felt wrong somehow. Hana, Velthara started again. I received your message. I have been thinking about your offer for many hours. You asked me to join you as a friend, not as an observer. I must tell you that I do not fully understand what friendship means to humans. My species does not form emotional attachments the way yours does. But I have learned something during my time watching your people. I have learned that understanding is not always necessary for cooperation. Sometimes different ways of thinking can be valuable precisely because they are different. I accept your invitation, not because I understand humans completely, but because I want to continue learning about what you represent in the galaxy. There is something I must tell you, though. My observations of human warfare have convinced me that your species will change the galaxy in ways that no one can predict. Some of those changes will be wonderful. Others may be dangerous. I stayed to witness your final battle because I believed that someone needed to document what humans were capable of. What I discovered was that humans are capable of things that no one, including humans themselves, fully understands. You fight wars not just to win, but to remain worthy of the peace that follows. You solve problems not just through logic, but through combinations of reason and emotion that create new possibilities. You treat enemies as potential friends and strangers as family members you have not met yet. These capabilities make you powerful in ways that traditional measures of strength cannot evaluate. They also make you responsible for how that power is used. Velthara paused, considering how to express the weight of what they had observed. I carry regret not because I witnessed your war, but because I understand what your survival means for the galaxy. You have proven that there are ways of being intelligent that no one had imagined before. That knowledge cannot be unknown, and its consequences cannot be avoided. The galaxy will have to learn to coexist with humans, just as you learned to coexist with the hegemony. That process will be difficult and sometimes painful, but it will also create possibilities that would not exist otherwise. I want to be part of that process, not as an observer documenting what happens, but as a participant helping to decide what should happen. I will come to Earth. We will learn from each other, and together, perhaps we can figure out how to use human capabilities to make the galaxy better rather than simply more complicated. Velthara ended the recording and sent it toward Earth. Then they began preparing for a journey that would change their life as completely as the war had changed the galaxy. As the small research station powered down for the final time, Velthara looked out at the stars and considered the future. The humans had taught them that some costs were worth paying, some risks were worth taking, and some unknowns were worth exploring. The regret would always remain. Regret for witnessing the pain and loss that war had caused. Regret for understanding capabilities that could be used for harm as well as good. Regret for knowledge that could not be forgotten. But alongside the regret was something else. Hope. Hope that humans would use their unique capabilities wisely. Hope that the galaxy would be better for their presence. Hope that understanding different ways of thinking would create possibilities that no single species could achieve alone. Vel quote, Thara set course for Earth, carrying both regret and hope toward an uncertain but fascinating future. As the ship entered hyperspace, a final thought occurred to them. They had been sent to observe humans at war and document their extinction. Instead, they had witnessed the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans had not just survived their war. They had transformed the meaning of survival itself. And no,